Hakuo listeners, let's learn sumo. I'm Clayton. So here we are at the end of day 11 of the Nagoya Grand Sumo Tournament. We have a leader, finally, with Nishikigi on 10 wins, clear of the field by 1 win. Down the field, we've got Hokuto Fuji, Daisho, Hoshoryu, and Wakamoto Haru and Endo, who are probably all sitting in that area that might still be able to win the tournament. So let's go back to day 9 and have a look at what happened there. The Wonder Kid debutant, Hakuoho, well, he racked up a loss with some pretty poor footwork and maybe a bit of a poor plan, to be honest. Tried a bit of a half-hanker at the tachi, where you step to the side to try and avoid your opponent and pull the momentum through, but he got caught with a bit of an arm bar and grabbed, and Daishoho pushed him out Oshidashi, a rear push-out. Endo, who was coming to this tournament in some pretty serious demotion trouble, he's found his mojo this tournament and might take himself with a kachikoshi in this July tournament. He had a pretty good fight with Gonoyama, and he stopped Gonoyama's initial charge and a pretty hefty exchange of Sapari thrusting until Endo got himself an inside belt grip, and he put up a 4th straight loss for Gonoyama on day 9, also an Oshidashi rear push-out. Poor old Kadoban, he went flying into the front row with a bit of help from Shononumi, Hatakikomi slapdown. Tamawashi lost to Kinbozan after a judge's mono-e showed that his heel touched out as he was against the bails. Kinbozan would want to probably be a bit careful though. He looked a little bit unhappy when the referee called it for Tamawashi before the mono-e was called. That sort of look and the way he did it, he might find himself in a bit of trouble if he's not careful. They look on that sort of descent very poorly. Anyway, Oshidashi was the call for that one. Hokuto Fuji brought up his kachikoshi winning record with a good pushing bout win over Oho. Oshidashi was again the name of the day there. Takanosho beat Hokuseiho. Okuridashi, a desperate kotenage throw attempt, put him in a very bad spot and very upright. Despite his success so far, Hokuseiho's one-handed upright poker machine style looks a bit vulnerable if he can't get a grip and he meets someone with a similar weight. So I bring up the point that I'm not sure that his style will take him too far if he persists with one hand. Anyway, former Ozeki Shodai beat Midori Fuji. Midori Fuji having a really bad tournament so far. He did well to prevent Shodai getting a grip early. He had a pretty good chance for an Iwatanage throw. He missed a late chance and ended up getting lifted and pushed out. And that being said, I think Midori Fuji, he's improved over the last few days. He looks a bit more balanced than he did last week by far. Maybe the new red Mawashi has something to do with that. Nishikigi, he continued his run on day 9 against Mitakaumi, but he did have to work for it. Nishikigi really is a real deal so far. He's met all of the Sekiwake, and now he's just got to make his way through the lower-ranked Megashira guys. Yeah, Mitakaumi got a double inside grip. He forced Nishikigi to the bails, but Nishikigi's strength showed as he tried to get control, and he pushed Mitakaumi out Yorikiri. At the time, I kind of said to myself, wow, that's pretty good power. Because Mitakaumi is a pretty large fellow himself. Kotonowaka and Tobizaru. Tobizaru survived a Kotonage throw attempt where the big pillow, Kotonowaka, had Tobizaru's left arm caught. I'm kind of shaking my head how Tobizaru either didn't break his arm off at the elbow or he got out of it. Either way, he did. He got an inside left grip and Oshidashi rear push out on Kotonowaka for the win. The slippery chaos agent that is Tobizaru, he was pretty impressive there, and he's had a couple of good days. Daisho, he got to an easy Oshidashi push-out win over Abi after taking a few thrusts to the face. Hoshoryu showed his balance and technique by getting a kakanage throw on our big round belly friend Hirodumi. Wakamoto Haru got a pretty good win against Ura. I think this was my fight of the day on day 9, and even more so after I saw a rear view point from Wakamoto Haru. From the rear, he just looked balanced, he looked stable, he looked strong throughout the bout, and didn't look in any trouble at all. Just looked a bit different from the front to the rear. It was pretty impressive. Kirishima met Meisei, and Tsukiyatoshi thrust down. Kirishima had to basically defend and recover at the bails. At the end, though, he looked in a little bit of pain, so that's not a good sign for him. Day 9 Stickbug Sumo News. Najima got a win today by a Yoritoshi frontal crush out. That took him to 3 wins, 2 losses in the limited bouts that they do in the lower Jonidan division. He's hoping he can get his Kachikoshi in that division after a couple of losing records this year. Day 10, we had a few upset wins. Goniyama beats Takara Fuji to stop his losing streak. They were both at 6 and 4 after day 10. Endo kept up his brilliant run to bring up his Kachikoshi this tournament and save himself from demotion to Juryo. He's still in the race at 8 and 2. He's certainly not favourite, but he's had a good couple of days so far. Hakuoho, he beat Koto Eko to make it to 7 and 3. He's lost a few tournaments, a little bit of inexperience there, a bit of bad footwork, a couple of bad plans. He was likely to get his Kachikoshi on day 11. Takanosho beat Dai Shoho for 5 wins in a row. It was double the work after Mono-E was called by the judges and they had to call a rematch. It was pretty close. I watched it in slow motion replay and I couldn't pick the winner. It was better foot placement for Takanosho the second time around. He pushed Dai Shoho out. 5 and 5 for Takanosho. Hokuto Fuji brought up his 9 and 1 today after beating Tamawashi on an Oshi Tayoshi, but to be honest, it was more like a whoopsie toshi as Tamawashi lost his footing and went down fairly easily. Hokuto Fuji, we'll talk about him shortly. Shodai tried to give the leaning tower of human that is Hokuseiho a similar leaning start, but Hokuseiho got a grip on him, walked him to the bails with a throw. Mono-E was called by the judges and Hokuseiho apparently put a foot out, which handed the fight to the former Ozeki Shodai. It was pretty clear that the judge right in front of them saw it. His hand went up almost immediately, even before Hokuseiho threw Shodai over. There's no way the Gyoji referee would have seen it from the angle he was. They're both at 4 and 6, and they need a few more wins to make their Kachikoshi winning records. Nishikigi, the man of the moment, demonstrated a pretty good defensive technique to save the match on day 10. Meisei had thrust, but at the critical moment, Nishikigi had a grip that allowed him to hold Meisei as he pushed him. Yori Tayoshi out, frontal crush out, and they both went over the bails, 9 and 1 to Nishikigi. Wakamoto Haru, there's an upset there on day 10. He lost to Onosho, damaged his chances for the Ozeki run. With 5 matches left from day 10. He's not going to be able to afford to lose any more matches if he wants to make Ozeki. It was an Oshidashi rear push out. I just think Onosho was a bigger wrestler. He seemed to get the momentary jump at the Tachiai, and the momentum just went with him. It was a pretty sort of easy loss that Wakamoto Haru really can't afford. Poor old Hiradumi, Roundbelly, was next to face the human threshing machine that is Daisho. Flailing Sapari thrust were the order of the day, which forced Hiradumi off balance for a Tsukitayoshi frontal thrust down win. Hoshoryu faced the big pillow Kotonowaka. He got a decent grip that changed halfway. He got pushed to the bails. His grip on the top layer of Kotonowaka's Mawashi didn't really help him to get enough movement on his opponent's hips. It was kind of similar to the Terunofuji situation where he grabbed the Mawashi and couldn't get a grip on it and couldn't use it to move his opponent. They struggled at the bails a bit. Kotonowaka bent Hoshoryu backwards, and you could see Hoshoryu just got a bit desperate there at the end. Couple of thrusts and Oshidashi frontal push out. Hoshoryu looked dumbfounded as he stood next to the dohyo, leaving him 8 and 2. Wasn't as bad a loss as Wakamoto Haru, in my opinion. I thought Kotonowaka's got a weight advantage. Hoshoryu just couldn't muster his defensive technique with that one-layer grip he had on the Mawashi. His Ozeki run is still intact. His run for the Emperor's Cup is still intact, but he's pretty much under pressure now. Kirishima, he got pushed back to the bails immediately by Ura, who really tried hard, but to Kirishima's benefit, he stayed mobile, while he had a one-handed grip on his Mawashi belt. A low standoff in the middle of the dohyo as they both tried for a grip. Kirishima tried unsuccessfully for an underarm throw, a shita tanage, but Ura recovered. But when he did recover, he didn't really have the balance and he got pushed out yorikiri, frontal push out, shortly thereafter. Kirishima, 4-4-2, so 4 wins, 4 losses, 2 absences to help his cause to stop a Kadoban Ozeki in September. Another 4 wins from day 10 would make him safe. So at the end of day 10, we had Hokuto Fuji on 9-1. We had Daisho on 8-2, Hoshoryu on 8-2, Kotonowaka and Shononumi on 7-3. But the fight of the night was on day 10 was the hot favourite Nishikigi against the lower ranked Endo, who was on 8-2. Going into day 11, which just finished, we had a look at Midori Fuji. He lost to Oho to make his Makekoshi losing record. Close match, tried hard, but tried an Watanage throw, but he just touched out just before Oho fell over. Shodai took a win against the pretty poorly performing Mitakayumi. I kind of feel a bit sorry for Mitakayumi. His father passed away, as we spoke about. He has tried fairly hard this tournament. He just hasn't been lucky on a few occasions. Tobizaru, he stayed fairly mobile, applying his style of mobile chaos sumo for the win against Meisei. Nishikigi waited for Endo at the tachi-ai. Brief exchange and Nishikigi overwhelmed him. Just power and executed a pretty simple yorakiri. That took Nishikigi to the sole leader at 10-1. I think his most recent record over the last 2 tournaments is something like 22 bouts, 1 to 1 loss. It's a pretty impressive record over the last couple of months. Komusubi Abi, who's trying to save his position, he went up against Takara Fuji. Abi had Takara Fuji under pressure, but he just dodged and Abi got too overcommitted and he went down Tsukiotoshi. Abi in trouble. He needs at 4-7. He needs to win his remaining matches to stay at Komusubi and not fall back into Magashira. Debutant Shononumi at 7-3, having a really good tournament as well, versus Komusubi Kotonowaka, who's at 6-4. Coming to the match, they struggled for a grip together. Shononumi, he got a right grip and he flung Kotonowaka out of the ring. But as he flung him, he stepped out left foot and he looked best not pleased. 7-4 for Kotonowaka and 6-4 for Shononumi. Hoshoryu took on the 38-year-old Tamawashi, who sits at 6-4. Power thrusting by Hoshoryu, and he showed a little bit of passion after winning that one. He had a big stare down with Tamawashi, a little bit of feeling there. That's probably the most you'll see any sort of feeling at the end of a match. That takes Hoshoryu to 9-2, keeps his Ozeki run intact. Wakamoto Haru and Hokuto Fuji, big fight, big strong sumo. Both got in, got a good grip at the tachi-ai. Wakamoto Haru tried to hit Takikomi and ended up with a pretty strong wrestle. Hokuto Fuji, he likes a big thrusting affair, so allowing Wakamoto Haru to get a grip was probably not the greatest thing for him to do. It was always going to go Wakamoto Haru's way after that. But Wakamoto Haru had to work for it. He is quite strong, so he eventually got him out. That left Daisho and Kirishima. Kirishima absorbed the human threshing machine's arms, his thrusting Tsupari blows, kind of standing still in the ring, and he let Daisho overbalance a little bit with a little bit of help from Kirishima, and he went down Hataki Komi. That improves Kirishima. So where are we at the end of day 11? Well, we've got a sole leader finally. Nishikigi on 10 wins. Hoshoryu on 9-2. Hokuto Fuji on 9-2. Look, to be honest, I can't see Hokuto Fuji winning the Basho. He's still got to face all the other Sekiwake ranked wrestlers, whereas Nishikigi's faced all of them. All he's got to face now are the lower ranked Magashira. He's faced Hoshoryu, Wakamoto Haru, and Daisho, and Kirishima. He got a Fusen on, so he can't face him again unless it's for a wrestle-off. So I would say that Nishikigi at this point in time, he is seriously the favourite for this Basho. This will be his first win if he can. He's been around a long time, many years, so I'm kind of cheering for him this one. I think he deserves it after all these years. Wakamoto Haru, his Ozeki runs in a little bit of trouble at 8-3, as is Daisho at 8-3. Daisho needs to get one less win. He only needs 11 wins. Wakamoto Haru needs 12 for his minimum Ozeki. Kirishima at 5-4-2. Well, he needs to win another 3 matches over the 4 days to get himself his Kachikoshi and avoid Kadoban in September. There's a separate episode explaining what Kadoban is when it comes to Ozeki rank. So, day 12, we've got Wakamoto Haru and Kirishima. This should be a pretty good match. Both very strong men, good balance, very stable. I would think I would like Wakamoto Haru to win, but I would think that Kirishima's experience will win out there. Hoshoryu and Hokuto Fuji, look, I think Hoshoryu should win that one. I just don't see that Hokuto Fuji has the same sort of balance. A few of his wins, he's looked a little bit ragged. He got the wins up, but yeah, a little bit of movement there that perhaps shouldn't have been there. Tamawashi, the older Tamawashi, 38 years old, he faces Daisho. I think Daisho should win that one fairly easily. Hakuoho, well, he faces Abi. I would think that this is a good opportunity for Hakuoho to take a win against Abi. Abi's not been great this tournament. News over today, Asanayama, the former Ozeki, he's coming back from Kyujo injury after a few days off, and he's going to fight Tobizaru. Interesting to see where that one goes. If Asanayama is still carrying an injury, I would think that Tobizaru should win that one fairly easily. And our leader, Nishikigi, he goes up against the debutante Shononumi. I would think that Nishikigi should win that one fairly easily. Well, that's it to the end of day 11, everyone. Look, I'll probably try and update as we get closer to the end of the tournament. I hope you've enjoyed the tournament this far and a little bit of my commentary. If you have, leave me a comment, ask me a question at Let's Learn Sumo on the Instagram, Twitter or Facebook page. On my Twitter, I tend to retweet a lot of interesting matches, a few different moves. There's been a few interesting Kimirate in the last few days that have brought about a bit of interest. I'll go into those a little bit later, and we'll talk about some of the unusual techniques that have been used in this tournament. As always, enjoy the sumo. Hakioi. I'm Clayton. Goodbye.